Welcome to today's live. So who's joining me live today? Welcome in. So I'm just going to give you guys a couple of minutes to join and we can get started. Okay. So welcome in everyone. Thank you for joining me live today. If this is the first training live video of mine that you're seeing, or even a shorts, if it's the first time that you're seeing me, welcome. Thank you for stopping by my channel. My name is Avi and I am a life coach. So I help overwhelmed professional women have a work-life balance. And I do this by taking them through a 3-step process that I created based on my own transformation as well. So if you have any questions about my programs or about my coaching, feel free to reach out to me. My details are in the description box accompanying this training. So today I have an interesting topic for you guys, okay? So I asked you guys, what would you like to see more of? And I asked a couple of my clients as well. And one of the top things that came up was, how do you communicate your boundaries without coming off as aggressive? So if you are a woman in a workplace, okay, if you're a professional woman or you're a woman who's in corporate, one of the dichotomies of being in the workplace is carrying yourself in a way where people don't perceive you as aggressive and difficult, right? Because you don't want to have that perception following you. It's going to hinder your progression. And oftentimes I hear a lot of women complaining is, how are they supposed to enforce their boundaries when people will view them as being aggressive? Okay, so for me, before I transformed myself, I used to have the same problem as well. And after going through my transformation, I realized what were some of the things and roadblocks that were stopping me, and also other women who are in the shoes, who are essentially experiencing certain things that are being perceived as aggressive behavior. And when people perceive these things as aggressive behavior, you are less likely to be in a position where you can influence them. And if you're not able to influence them, then it makes you feel powerless. And what's the point of enforcing a boundary when people are not perceiving you the right way? Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to tell you, ladies, is that your boundaries are energetic. Like, boundaries are energetic. So because they're an energy, it's impossible for somebody to impede your boundaries. Like, I'm going to keep saying this. I've been saying this in all my trainings, but I'm going to keep repeating it. All right. If you feel like you cannot enforce your boundaries because you think people are going to perceive you as aggressive, what that actually means is that you don't have the boundaries in you, in your energy. Because when it's in your energy, people cannot stop you from enforcing it. But let's leave that. We're going to talk a little bit about how you can step into that position of power to be able to enforce your boundaries without coming across as aggressive, okay? So one of the things there, first of all, the way that I want this training to go is we're going to talk about the barriers that causes women to be perceived as aggressive. And it's not what you think. It is not what you think. It is, some women tell me that, AB, I feel so powerless. I don't know what to do. This is my coworker, this is my coworker, that. And all of the things that I'm going to be telling you, it's internal. So these are things that you can fix yourself so that you don't transfer your power to somebody else. You cannot control the behaviors of others. You guys know this, right? Excuse me. You can only control your behavior. So anything that I'm going to tell you today is supposed to empower you to change your own behavior, because when you do, it changes the dynamic. It changes the energy flow between you and the person that you need to enforce your boundaries to. And when that dynamic changes, they have no choice but to see the results. Okay, so that's how this is gonna work. So first things first, let's talk a little bit about this whole aggression, right? Why are women feeling that they're being termed as aggressive when they enforce their boundaries? You guys give me a second, my throat is a little bit dry. Give me a second here. Okay. So for me, before I went through my own transformation, I was in my masculine energy a lot. So what does this mean? This means that I was in my do, go getter, on to the next one. And so the thing about a woman being in masculine energy is that, yeah, it's great. It helps you get things done. It helps you be a high achiever, right? It helps you grow your career. But if you are 100% of the time in that energy, in all phases of your life, it's going to influence and affect the way that you communicate with people. Many people are not used to, their brain has not gotten used to a woman communicating in certain scenarios. And some women might say, well, AB, that's not fair and whatnot. But questions like that, like, is it fair? Is it not fair? Let's steer away from that. You know why? Because it disempowers you, right? Is it fair that there are certain nations in the world that are more liable to earthquakes than others? Is it fair? The question that you're gonna say is, well, does it matter? Does it matter, right? We cannot control that. It's nature's course, right? So I want you to take the same approach, right? Let's defocus on, is it fair and is it not fair? Because we cannot control that, right? There's some people whose job is to control that. But if you're listening to me and you resonate with my work, you know that there's certain things that I tell you is take control of your own life. Focus on the things that are within your control and within your power, and take the actions accordingly. You will have a better quality of life. Okay, so back to the whole being in masculine energy 100%, right? So when you are in this state 100% of the time, another effect that it has beyond how people perceive you is that it drains your energy. And when your energy is drained, you are not showing up in a way that you have been designed to show up. You are not showing up 100%. You are not showing up as your beautiful, intelligent, amazing self, right? Because you're drained. Like, you literally don't have the energy for anything else. And oftentimes that state of mind affects the way that we actually enforce our boundaries. Like, I remember in those days when I was, I think I was on a call and I was so tired, you guys. Like, I was so stressed from all the responsibilities that I was carrying at work. And in that call, I just kind of blurted out and somebody asked me a question that triggered me, and I was just like, like, even for me, I knew, like, AB, there's a problem here. Okay. And that time I was like, well, they're gonna say I am aggressive and whatnot, but the truth is, on that call, I actually acted like somebody who didn't have control, right? Didn't have control. And I'm able to admit that now because I've moved past that stage. So I get it. I get it if you are in that place or that state of mind where you're stressed out, you're tired, and people are perceiving you as aggressive. And sometimes it's difficult to own up to the fact that perhaps you may have contributed to that. But this is not to lay blames. We're not doing that here. It's just to kind of give you a moment of reflection to really understand how you are playing a part in this. Because when you understand that, it's easier to fix you. It's way easier to fix you. Okay, so one of the things that I want you guys to understand about enforcing boundaries, because it's energetic, the way that you do it matters. The energy that you're doing it matters. If you do it from a place where you are upset, you're annoyed, you're angry, it's going to come out. And depending on the scenario, it may or may not be appropriate, or it may or may not be appropriately enforced. I'm going to give you guys an example, but I want to give you a summary of how all of this works. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about the guiding principles behind enforcing boundaries to do it in a way where people don't perceive you as aggressive. So the opposite of that is a woman who is healthy and is able to enforce her boundaries in a cool, calm, collected manner. I just showed you what a cool, calm, collected manner means. When you enforce your boundaries, just kind of like in the same way that I'm talking to you guys right now, it's very difficult for people to perceive you as aggressive. It's also very difficult for people to not listen to you because you're not saying it from a place where you don't mean it. You're straightforward, you're looking at them in the eye, and you're letting them know what it is that you're available for and what you're not available for. But you're doing it in a way that is not disrespectful, that is not condescending, but at the same time communicates it clearly. Okay, so I'm getting ahead of myself. I just wanted to show you guys what that means. And in order for you to be able to enforce your boundaries in a cool, calm, collected manner, there are certain guiding principles that you would have to follow. Okay, we're talking about guiding principles. We're talking about being able to enforce these boundaries in the right way so that you can get the right action that you're looking for. Remember, if you're struggling with this because you're afraid that people will perceive you as aggressive, there are certain things that if you start doing, it's impossible for the human mind to receive that as aggressive behavior. Why? Because there's certain cues and body languages that we utilize when we're communicating that does not denote aggression. When you are talking slowly, when you are calm, when you are direct and looking someone in the eye, and when you are speaking your point in a straightforward manner, that's not aggressive behavior, right? The opposite of that is when you're stressed out, you're speaking fast, you're moving forward, it almost feels like you want to attack them, right? It almost feels like you want to attack them. You guys, I know I use my hands a lot when I'm doing this live trainings, but that's just the way AB talks, okay? But when you're like this and you're like, right? In human mind and in human behavior, those types of body languages would be tagged as aggressive. Your tone of voice, the way that you're saying it, the thing that you're saying, these are things and cues that we have been conditioned to understand and to determine the way and manner that somebody is speaking to us. So in order for you to get to that point where you want to be able to enforce your boundaries in a cool, calm, collected manner, I actually wrote this down for you guys, by the way. The first things first, the first thing that I would say will help you a lot is avoid doing this when you're stressed. I know this is hard because oftentimes, especially for women, especially for us, the times that we're able to enforce our boundaries is when we've had enough. And when we've had enough, we're already at the point of feeling stressed about it. And so when we're enforcing the boundaries, it comes out with that energy of stress and annoyance and disgust. I know I'm speaking someone's language here. I was like, yes, Sadie. I know, I've been that woman, right? So especially for us women, because a lot of us have fear behind wanting to enforce our boundaries. So first things first is resist the urge to do this from a place of fear. If you are in a situation at work, for example, not fear, sorry, from stress. If you're at work, for example, and somebody does something to you that makes you feel stressed and they're violating your boundaries and whatnot, I would actually prefer that you physically or emotionally remove yourself from the situation and just go, right? Excuse yourself from there, go and calm down. And if you have to communicate to them, then you do so. I would actually prefer you do that, because if you are stressed and annoyed and you speak from there, it's going to come across as being perceived as aggressive. And as I'm saying this thing to you guys, there's some thought that's coming up from me, because the way that this works in my life is the situation that I just presented to you guys, where somebody says something to you and you feel triggered about it. The situation that I just presented right now, when you have your boundaries in your energy, it actually, people can read that, and you actually receive less of people triggering your boundaries. When I had no boundaries, I used to feel triggered so much, especially in the workplace. I used to feel triggered so much, and I used to feel like people were stepping on my boundaries. But as soon as I healed myself and I was wearing my boundaries, like I come into your presence and you can feel that this is a boundary for me and I'm not available for you. You can feel it in my energy. I never had to say it. Less and less people were triggering me. In fact, I have to think clearly now about the triggers that I've experienced, because I've healed those wounds and those leakages that were causing me not to be able to wear my boundaries as my energy. But I know that's a different level of being able to enforce your boundaries. But I wanted to mention that because you guys are going to get to a point. You're going to get to a point where you get used to enforcing your boundaries, that you no longer have to think through it to be able to do what you need to do to be able to enforce it. All right. So, but let's just kind of take a step back here. Recap. Before you enforce your boundaries, try to avoid doing it in stressful situations as much as you can. If you can remove yourself from the situation physically or energetically, do it. Okay, it's going to help you and keep you calm, because when you are stressed, you guys, there's a whole chemical reaction, there's a whole process that takes place in our body. When a woman is stressed, the part of your brain that's logical, the part that's responsible for critical thinking, that can help you communicate in the right way, is turned off. And the part that is more emotional is turned on. So you cannot speak clearly when you are stressed. This is another thing too, and it's going to affect the way that people receive your communication. So that's why I say I prefer that you remove yourself from the situation as much as you can, physically or energetically or emotionally, or you just calm down. You stay quiet and calm down. So just stop speaking and calm down. Okay, so pause for like 5 to 6 seconds, and just calm down. That's going to give you enough time to recollect yourself, allow the emotions pass through, and then you can speak. All right, so let's take a pause here and we'll talk about the next guiding principle. Okay. The second barrier that causes women to be perceived as aggressive when they try to enforce their boundaries is this phenomenon of me versus you. So because a lot of women in the workplace are showing up stressed and tired and fatigued, their body is in a place where they're sensing a lot of things and events as threats. And so when a woman does not feel safe, almost everything becomes like a threat to her. And so when somebody who, says something that may not necessarily trigger another person, she will be triggered by it because her body is in a state of fight or flight. Her body feels like she's being chased by a lion. And so certain things are heightened. Certain perceptions are flawed because of that. And so what tends to happen is if you have the mindset of me versus you, so you versus your coworker, you versus your manager, you versus your organization, you versus your VP or whatever, it's going to affect the way that you are able to communicate at work, and also in the case of your boundaries, it's going to affect the way that you enforce them as well. You're going to always think that everybody's against you, nobody likes you, nobody wants to do anything for you, people want to destroy you. You're going to have that state of mind. You cannot trust anybody, things like that. Now, am I saying that you're wrong, like you don't have people that are untrustworthy or people that don't have your best interests at heart? Of course you have those people, right? It's possible that you have them. But what I've learned from my journey, and I've taught this to my clients, is that when you focus your energy on things that you don't like, you will attract those things. And the problem with attracting those things is that they affect your quality of life. So for me, the way this showed up was before I healed myself and healed those wounds and triggers and whatnot, everything felt like a threat. It was me versus this person, me versus that person. So if they did something, I would react in a way that is overboard. Like I remember, I can't believe I'm about to share this story. But I remember there was one day somebody made a mistake on my title at work. It was a simple error. It was a simple mistake. But Amy didn't take it so lightly. I went and got my employment letter. I got all the details and I sent everything to them. And I had this long paragraph of like 5-6 paragraphs explaining how I got this title. Like, oh my gosh, this person just made a mistake. But in that state of me versus them, it was like war. It felt like I was fighting war. Like this title that I spent years acquiring. How dare you? How dare you get it wrong? Like, you guys, I actually went to get my employment letter and scanned it to them with the 6 or 7 paragraphs explaining it. Like, see, this is why I tell you guys this stuff. It's not to out myself without any lessons, okay? Take the lessons from it so that you don't be the way that I used to be. You don't be the way that I used to be, because, oh my gosh, you're just, in addition to burning your own energy, wasting your time, you're just breaking, destroying relationships. And no. But anyways, I digress. So when you have this mindset, back to the whole me versus you. The me versus you means that you're seeing everything as a threat and everybody is against you. And when you have that kind of mindset, it affects the way that you enforce your boundaries. When you are saying something to somebody that you think is your enemy, the way that you say it is different to someone that you think is your friend. And you won't be able to see these differences until somebody calls you out and somebody is honest with you and tells you that, girl, no, right? So as your coach, you have given me the permission. If you're watching this live, you have given me the permission to call you out, right? This is not to lay blames, but it's just to draw your awareness to why certain things take place, okay? All right, I know that was a little bit of a long tangent there, but I felt that was necessary because let's just say, you know what? Thank goodness. for transformation. Thank goodness. Okay, so the third reason why women experience this is because when we are trying to enforce our boundaries, especially when it's coming from a place of fear, we go into a state of trying to explain ourselves. Explain. Now, let me tell you what happens when a woman is trying to explain herself. So first of all, if she's annoyed and she's stressed out and she feels like she has to enforce her boundaries, listen up. This is what it means. It means that you have annoyed her to the point where she can no longer keep quiet. And now she just wants to tell you off. And so when she has to explain herself, so if she enforces the boundary and she's explaining herself, and you ask her questions about why she has that boundary, she's probably gonna get even more irritated and annoyed, and she's gonna go off on you. So the things that I just experienced is the common scenario of many women at work. It's the common scenario. I went through it too. And so when you resist the urge to explain yourself, you put yourself in a position where you are less likely to be triggered and annoyed by people asking you why you have this boundary. Does that make sense? When you don't have to explain yourself, because the more you go into explaining yourself, the more you're likely to say something that you're going to regret, the more you're even going to get even more annoyed by that, right? So it's like you're digging yourself in a rabbit hole. Let me give you an example. Okay. So the example that I said, somebody misread my title and they got it wrong. Let's use that example. They misread my title. Okay. So I went into 6 paragraphs explaining why did I get my title, how long it took me to get this title, and whatnot. And I'm so grateful that I had somebody, my manager was in that email, and my manager is somebody that supported me. I'm so grateful that she stepped in and just nipped that conversation in the bud, because if she did not, and if that person had responded and triggered me more, I would have probably written 10 or 15 paragraph emails. That's insane, first of all, right? But in that state of mind, I was not thinking in the right place, right? Because I was thinking with me versus you. I was thinking with me versus you. You're the enemy, you're targeting me, you're against me, and whatnot, right? And so when I felt that, it made me feel fear, and I thought that I had to go into explaining mode and explaining myself. So this is how we can show up. This is how we can show up for you guys. So save yourself the trouble and resist the urge to explain yourself. You do not have to explain. You never have to explain your boundaries. And when they become part of your energy, nobody's going to expect you to, because they can feel that and they can read into that and they're going to respect it. Okay? So you guys, I just want to give you a quick recap here. Next week, we're going to talk about specific things that you can do to enforce this boundary. But this week, I wanted to introduce this topic because I am short of time here. But then next week, we're going to talk a little bit more. So recap, guiding principles that are going to help you avoid enforcing your boundaries in a way that will be perceived as aggressive is, number 1, is making sure that you are in a cool, calm, collected state. When you're in a cool, calm, collected state, nobody can perceive you as aggressive, because the human mind has not been wired to do or perceive certain cues as aggressive. Number 2, avoid doing this from a place of stress, because stress will make the communication, it will alter the communication that you're trying to enforce. And when that communication is altered, then it's not going to be perceived in the right way that you want it to. Number 3, avoid the me versus you scenario. Believe that the world is in your favor, even if it's not true. But just for your own mental health, for your own physical, emotional, psychological, mental health, believe that everything is working out for you. Believe that life is rigged in your favor. Believe that people are working to do things for you, right? Believe that people have your best interests at heart. Even if you don't feel like it's true, it doesn't matter. Why? Because when you have that mindset where, giving people the benefit of the doubt and believing that everything is working out in your favor, you are less likely to view them as your enemy, and you're more likely to be able to communicate in a clear manner where you are not perceiving them as me versus you, you're against me, you hate me, you're victimizing me, right? You also remove yourself from that victim mindset, because when you are out of that victim mindset, you are able to take action to empower yourself and get yourself a better quality of life. It will change your life. It really will. It really, really will. Okay? Number four was, what was number 4 again? Number 4, oh yes, I have it in my notes here. Resist the urge to explain yourself. Do not explain why you have boundaries. Do not explain why you're taking this action. If you are triggered by someone and they're asking you questions why you have this boundary, do not respond. Pause, keep quiet, allow yourself to calm down. Calm down. Okay? Calm down. Breathe. Allow the emotions pass through. And once you've done that, then you can respond in a clear, concise manner, not explaining your boundaries, but communicating the way that you feel in that moment. Okay? So I hope you guys got this, and I hope you guys enjoy this training. I am going to continue part 2 next week, and we're going to be talking about what to do. How do you actually enforce these boundaries and let it become energetic so that it's much more perceived in the right way that you would want people to. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments and I will get to them. But other than that, ladies, I will see you next week or maybe later this week. Who knows? Bye.